Washington and Park in Morristown as an elevator operator. He wrote music. He left quite a bit of money to the Calvary Baptist Church. He owned 2 houses here on Maple Avenue, and our museum has some of his music, and also he donated a pre-Columbian figure to the museum, which is still there today. So his uncle gave him this figure as well, and his uncle was a personal attendant to Mr. Pullman of the Pullman Railway cars. So we do have Black History right here in Morris Plains, and I will get that out on the email alert for next week. But you know, we just have that sort of stuff at our museum as well. So if anybody has a chance to go to the museum, they have all kinds of interesting stuff for all kinds of people. So I just want to piggyback. So thank you.
Thank you.
Public safety, Tyler.
It was a robust report, Nancy. I'll continue to step my game up over here.
It's okay, Tyler, you're doing fine.
So, pretty busy couple weeks as usual. I had the opportunity to meet with Chris Shea, again, the fire prevention chief. As mentioned at the last meeting, he started his new hours. Pretty much every day that he's in at 7:30, he has been able to start inspections at 8 a.m., so that's fantastic. He's not here tonight. They're at a radio meeting up at the academy, learning about county and all the radios between everybody. He did give me his report in January. He was actually able to do 82 inspections, which generated $6,354 of revenue for the township, so that's fantastic. He also gave me his budget, which we started to look at, not too different from last year, but being my first year as liaison, just kind of got me comfortable with it and learning some of the ins and outs of that. On the fire department front, I had the opportunity again to meet with Chief Rongo and Mark Bellis. The ladder truck is back and in the firehouse. That was the one truck that I was not able to see last time, so I got an impressive tour of that and really some cool vehicles, I will say that. So that was really interesting. We started talking about how he uses that for shared services and with other towns. We did go over the budget thoroughly, which again was really great for me to get to learn and understand that a little bit. We also started talking about the capital budget and some of the big expenses that will be coming up this year. You know, one of the bigger things, one of the fire trucks is older, so, you know, what do we do on that front? And I'll let Chief Rongo come up at the end and speak as well. The courts, unfortunately I had something come up this week, so I was not able to be here for the live court day, but I'm going to meet with Judge Carlucci to learn a little bit more about that as the liaison and see what I can be doing to, you know, help them out and be supportive as usual. Police front, met with Chief Koroski as usual. We extended the offer that we had already hired the officer Erickson, which is fantastic. He was put on notice that we may have an officer transferring, so the good news is both police officer candidates that we interviewed were fantastic. So we were able to vote and approve a conditional offer to the second officer, so we will not ideally have, you know, an officer down. Let's see, I did get the reports from Chief Koroski as of 2:10. We had a conceptual plans committee where Dave Schultz again did a very impressive presentation on do we renovate this building, do we build a building off-site. Mayor Carr was able to be there. He essentially recommended for us to re-engage the museal group and to get a third, you know, rendering or drawing of what a different renovation here at this building could look like to give us a couple more options as well. And kind of start as the transportation and traffic committee chair, you know, started some conversations about ideally trying to work with the DOT on some of the upcoming projects and ideally incorporating some of these complete streets initiatives that we're starting to think about and talk about and try to have a loose form of that in place at some point this year. So moving forward on all fronts, and I think that's it for me, but if Chief K or Chief Rongo want to come up, that's great.
Thank you, Chief. Yeah, I'm going to reserve a lot of my time for my budget presentation. I'll be quick and brief and get us out of here in a timely fashion. But I did want to thank the council for their quick action on hiring Jake, and I'll call him Jake until I can say his last name properly. Yeah, we had a pending lateral transfer to another agency, so the council, having met both candidates, was very quick in acting and bringing in Jake, and I'm sure he'll be a great addition to the agency once they both graduate later this year in June. Our Deer Cull closed. final count is 10 female and 5 males, so hopefully that reduces some of the damage to resident property and vehicle collisions associated with deer incidents. So that's all I have. Chief?
Thank you. Good evening all. Basically, not much going on. The ladder, like Tyler said, the ladder truck came back. It's back in working condition.
Hey Kevin, sorry, could you speak into the microphone?
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
I was Roseanne, I can hear you
Oh,
fine.
sorry. Can you hear me? Yeah, sure. Okay. The ladder's back. It's fully operational. It's been on a couple calls. We've been experiencing some calls for natural gas odor on Stiles Avenue. Got another one today. Apparently the gas company is venting the gas line there. I guess they have a problem with the feed line. So I talked to the resident and explained the situation to her, and hopefully that'll calm down those calls. But I also talked to the PSE&G worker that came out and tried to get him to expedite the repair, because we've been there 10, 12 times.
They're coming out of the vent?
Yeah, it's a service line. There's a big tree right on top of it, so I don't know if they're worried about taking the tree down or worried about the water main, because there's a water service right next to it too. So
I have another address that you can stop at, I'll give you later on.
okay.
I got a couple calls myself today.
All right.
Thank you.
And we had a drill. We got invited up to Greystone Park, the hospital, with Mount Tabor on Tuesday evening. They did a walkthrough of the facility. We got 16 guys, or members and attendants, so they got to learn about the ins and outs of the hospital. They all came back. And we're approaching 60 calls for the year so far. So we're busy.
Thank you, Chief. Moving to Public Works, Mr. Bruhn.
Thank you. So, our DPW continues to repair our town vehicles pretty much daily. Remove any garbage in our parks. They've salted the roadways quite a bit, and they've done a great job keeping us safe with all these little storms and the sidewalks. It was 5 times this period, plowing the roads. In addition, there was a tree that fell over on Johnson Road, our pumping station, which they've cleared for us. There was some minor repairs at the community center they took care of, some other items at the police station holding cell. They were able to clear a lot of the ice and snow and leaves and sticks that have accumulated in the storm drains, so we appreciate that for any future storms and rain. And they were able to clean out some of their salt trucks, just to hose them out so they keep the corrosion at a minimum. Then some of the heavy winds, they were able to pick up some of the sticks around the town and branches. And they ran our generators, our backup generators for our town buildings, and cleaned our sewers 4 times this period. I didn't want to interrupt it. Did you want to speak at the public invitation? You had come to one meeting a little late. Did you have anything you wanted to say?
Me?
Yeah. No, okay, I'm sorry.
No,
Okay.
I
Because I knew you came a little late, and I didn't know if you wanted to speak, so.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
Thank you, though.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Our borough engineer came down ill this evening, so he is not with us, so we do not have a report from him. Public buildings and grounds, Mr. Cortese.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight we have Mike Lombardi from the Shade Tree Commission. I don't want to take too much away from him, but after that windstorm, we had a couple of trees down on Johnson Road and right by our pump station. And that's a very important area there. When I drive through there, I always look straight. I really never look up until those trees fell in. There's a lot of dead trees in our right of way, and it had to be. So I'm meeting tomorrow, I think, with Mike and Forrester there, and to see the component plan. Also, we're going to be meeting, another tree fell down right on top of the baseball cage there. And that area also has to be addressed. I don't want to wait till you report. My apologies. And Councilman Michael Ivey asked that I look at Rodnut Park. I know that there are some things there too. I don't want to take away, but hopefully we can make it there and see what's going on with the trees. Unfortunately, we won't really know till probably another couple of months. but I just feel really worried, a lot of, especially still some nice trees that are out there, and we've lost about 5% of our forestry over so many years. Recreation, it's gonna be a tough time. I went through, after 17 years, our director, Carly Leahy, resigned, and she was just wonderful. And Lisa Gagliardi was our event coordinator. I created those positions. I split them up that way, not knowing that they were gonna retire together. So now we're gonna have to pick up our sleeves, may ask some council for some help. I don't know, we got some events coming up, but I think the next one should be the Easter egg hunt.
Breakfast.
Or breakfast, I'm sorry. And the last time we interviewed and we hired people, the level of turnover, I'm going back about 17 years, right, was rather high, and expectations, and who thought they had to do this and who thought they had to do that. We did come a long way, so we're gonna, go through the candidates. We posted, we have some candidates on the consent calendar. We extended one of the deadlines to hopefully interview more candidates. It's a very important position, and I can only tell you that Mrs. Leahy left the bar very high, and I hope all you guys got to go to community center. Decorations, just the love, the warmth, the level of information that she gave was, I pray to God that we can get someone as good. Everyone's replaceable, we all know that, but she was just so dynamic. And again, with the event coordinator going at the same time, it leaves a big hole. A lot of times there was always sometimes some friction. Those two got along great. We had a really good run, and I hope to be able to find two candidates with my committee and the rec department that keep it going. That's about it. I don't want to take too much away from it.
Public health, sanitation, sewers, Mike's not here, I just finalized.
He said we have a super quick update just to be able to give. Teen Center, the All Grade Dance was a success. They're currently planning their next events and working to spruce up the cosmetics of the center over the coming weeks. Board of Health, last meeting was canceled due to inclement weather. The next meeting will be March 12th. If anything is needed ahead of that meeting, please feel free to contact me. Other tasks, reached out to the MCMUA to begin the recycling contract renewal. Had my first voucher experience with President Sal. Met with Chief Koroski for a tour of the police department and hope to plan a tour of the DPW next week. Enjoying learning a lot.
But President Sal, that sounds pretty good.
Not me, I don't want that.
Wow, that's great. Thank you.
By the way, Mayor, I also met with Michael Ivey with the vouchers, and I can tell you, within 5 minutes, I was worried about an hour, he just went through it and was dynamic, and to have an engineer on the board just makes us more dynamic, and I think we can serve the public a lot better. I think it's a nice fit to the board that he had, and we shared some conversation, and very, very, very good. Unfortunately, couldn't make it tonight, but I'm sure he's watching the video.
Fantastic. Ordinance of public utilities, Mr. Houston.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a note, TK, I was actually on a ski lift when Art called me and said, you need to respond to this thing about the officer. So power of technology, right?
I appreciate it.
We got it done, so appreciate it. All right, so just some notes here. So I know some residents, the last meeting had questions about some of the ordinances in town. So I met with my committee, and we're gonna look into a few of the ordinances for some outdated definitions. Specifically, some of the ordinances we're looking at are 14-23, which is involves land developments, Ordinance 1/2016, which involves room and board, 12/2019, which involves frontage, and then Ordinance 9/2003, which involves fire prevention. We're gonna review the latest ones with our planner Liz Lahaney, and the fire prevention one with Fire Marshal Chris Shea, and then at a meeting in March, I plan to bring these to the council for review. So. Construction office update. So our office collected $8,590 in permit fees. There were 49 certificates issued and 49 permits pulled. The 49 certificates were for CA, Construction Administration, which means the engineer, planner, inspectors, and all are following up on the work. 48 permits were for alterations to existing properties. 1 permit was for demolition. We had no properties sold and no new properties purchased in January of 2025. Of the 7 part-time inspectors that we have, they completed 154 inspections in January of 2025. 48 were building, 43 were electrical, 49 were plumbing, and 14 were fire inspections. One of the clerks over there is taking what's called a TACO course, which is a technical assistant for construction officials. It's an online course, and it's necessary for our clerks to properly support the inspectors, planners, and engineers in their jobs. I also met with Bill O'Connor, the head of the department over there, about his budget as well. We had some good conversation and some good budget planning. On digitizing documentation, again, met with Bill O'Connor. We met a few companies about digitizing all of our permits and plans. The goal there is to make sure that all of our documents comply with the New Jersey Department of Treasury guidance, and additionally, make all of our permits, plans, and documents easily searchable by the people in the office and the public. Let's see. The process is going to take a few months once we've selected a vendor. We're currently obtaining quotes, which I'll bring back to the council for review at a future meeting. Planning board update. So planning board had their monthly meeting February 10th. Steve Augenblick, Marianne Stecker, and Andrew Wolf were appointed to the minor site plan committee. Just for those that don't know, the minor site plan committee reviews and approves smaller, less complex development proposals, which typically involves modifications to existing buildings for relatively small new construction projects and usually do not require full site plan review by the full planning board. Let's see. Then John Bezold, Ron Kelly, Mike Garavaglia, and myself were appointed to the master planning committee, which also includes the mayor, our planner Liz Lahaney, and our engineer Bill Ryden. And the master planning committee is responsible for managing the development and updates of a master plan, which outlines the community's goals, policies, and vision for land use and infrastructure. Planning board also approved Resolution 2506, which adopts the amendment to the Open Space and Recreation Plan. This essentially just updates our open space inventory, which includes areas like parks and some other lands. There was, let's see, we reviewed an application for completeness, deemed it complete. We also had a public hearing on application PB 324, which is Crossings 10. For phase 2, which consists of a 3-story structure with retail on the first floor and self-storage on the upper 2 floors. This will be where the parking lot is currently as you enter from Johnson Road off to the left. The application was deemed complete there. The next planning board meeting is going to be Monday, March 17th at 7:30 p.m. here in this room. The zoning board has their monthly meeting actually February 24th here in this room. And on the agenda, there are 2 applications for private residences which will be memorialized. I met with our checklist committee, which is myself, Bill Ryden, who's our engineer, Dave Schultz, who's the chair of the planning board, and Mike Garavaglia, who's the chair of Dave Schultz, chair of the zoning board, and Mike Garavaglia is chair of the planning board. We had our first meeting Friday, February 7th. We're meeting monthly to review and update the checklist. The checklists are used to determine if an application is complete and meets the requirements for the planning board or zoning board. It has not been updated since 2019. Some of the things we're looking to do are allow the engineer and planner to do completeness reviews of the applicant before the application comes to respective boards, reviewing and possibly reducing the amount of waivers that are needed, making it easier for residents to submit a simplified checklist as they don't have the same variance requirements that a commercial property would, making the forms online fillable PDFs that are easier and simpler to use, and creating a paperless format where most of the forms are electronic or allowed by statute. SMCMUA update. They're continuing to do utility work Monday to Friday, 8:30 to 4, with the exception of holidays. The week of February 18th to the 21st, they installed a new water main on Maple Avenue, and they're testing the newly installed water main in Stiles. They also installed a new water main on Hawthorne Avenue, and they're testing the newly installed water main on Birch Drive. Next week, they'll be over on Stiles and Birch, and they'll start doing service line transfers. And then just on a training update, I've signed up for an online course of records entitled The Powers and Duties of Municipal Governing Body. It's a 6-hour seminar that provides governing body members with an overview of municipal government and the multitude of challenges affecting its efficient, timely, and ethical operations, is what it says. So the program is specifically designed to address the needs and interests of elected officials serving their respective communities. So I look forward to joining that class. It's gonna be good education for me. And then just on a general comment, Don Salerno, who's our zoning officer over there, on Monday, he will be celebrating his 87th birthday. So happy birthday to Don. And that is all I have.
Thank you. Just while I'm thinking of it, the cutoff date for the artwork for the new design for our 100th anniversary logo is coming up on March 1st. So any artists out there that want to present an art drawing of a logo for our 100th anniversary, you can find that information on the website or email alert. The police will wear it, the fire department will wear it, it'll be on the vehicles, any literature for our 100th year anniversary in 2026. We'll all be part of it, and I believe there's some fun stuff that it's also going to be used on that we'll disclose later on. But get your artwork in, and it'll be all over the place. Introductions of ordinances, Mr. Houston.
Great. I, Councilmember Houston, introduce the following ordinance and read the same by title and move that it be passed in the first reading. Ordinance 2-2025, bond ordinance providing for the improvement of various roads in and by the borough of Morris Plains in the county of Morris, New Jersey, appropriating $953,000, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $905,350 in bonds or notes of the borough for financing such appropriation.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Sal. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cortese.
Yes.
Mr. Bruhn.
Yes.
Mr. Houston.
Yes.
Mr. Pontier.
Yes.
Ms. Verga.
Yes.
I, Councilmember Houston, offer the following resolution, whereas the above ordinance was introduced and read by title at this meeting on February 20th, 2025, and passed in the first reading. Now therefore be it resolved that at a meeting to be held on March 6th, 2025 at 8:30 p.m. prevailing time at the municipal building in the said borough, this council will further consider for second reading and final passage the said ordinance. And be it further resolved that the clerk of this body, the clerk of this borough is hereby directed to publish and mail the proper notice, including the ordinance, post the ordinance on the bulletin board of the municipal building, and to make copies available to the members of the general public.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? The ayes have it, and this just puts the funds in place for the road projects that we anticipate starting after school is over, and that's Cleveland Avenue, Brook Drive North, Davenport Avenue, Wynwood Road, Beach Drive, Sun Valley Way, Forest Avenue, and Forest Court.
I, Councilmember Houston, introduce the following ordinance and read the same by title and move that it be passed in the first reading. Ordinance number 3-2025, an ordinance to appropriate $405,000 for the improvement of Stiles Avenue and providing that the sum of $208,504 is expected to be received from New Jersey DOT grant, and the sum of $88,735 is expected to be received from the Southeast Morris County Municipal Utilities Authority, with $107,761 appropriated from Capital Improvement Fund balance.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Tyler, roll call, please.
Mr. Cortese.
Yes.
Mr. Bruhn.
Yes.
Mr. Houston.
Yes.
Mr. Pontier.
Yes.
Ms. Verga.
Yes.
I, Councilmember Houston, offer the following resolution, whereas the above ordinance was introduced and read by title at this meeting on February 20, 2025, and passed in the first reading. Now therefore be it resolved that at a meeting to be held on March 6, 2025 at 8:30 p.m. prevailing time at the municipal building in the said borough, this council will further consider for second reading and final passage the said ordinance. And be it further resolved that the clerk of this borough is hereby directed to publish and mail the proper notice, including the ordinance, post the ordinance on the bulletin board of the municipal building, and to make copies available to members of the general public.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Art. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The ayes have it. And again, this is putting the funds in place and also mentioning the agreement that we have with the Water Authority to pave Stiles, which will probably take place next year. do have ordinances on second reading. Mr. Houston.
I, Councilmember Houston, read by title the ordinance entitled, Ordinance Number 1-2025, an ordinance amending ordinance number 10-2024, creating a custodial building maintenance position, which ordinance was introduced and passed on the first reading at a meeting held on January 30th, 2025.
I open up the meeting to the public. Seeing no one, I close the public hearing.
Sorry, can you confirm what you're asking?
Any members of the public that would like to come up and talk about this ordinance that's up for
Okay.
second reading?
Thank you.
I, Councilmember Houston, state that the above ordinance, as read by title on second reading at this meeting, be adopted and finally passed.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Nancy. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cortese.
Yes.
Mr. Bruhn.
Yes.
Mr. Houston.
Yes.
Mr. Pontier.
Yes.
Ms. Verga.
Yes.
Thank you.
I declare the ordinance adopted and finally passed. This is self-explanatory, just making a full-time position for a maintenance person for the borough buildings, municipal building, the annex, 555, community center, teen center, consolidated 2 positions into 1. We have no resolutions, we have no unfinished business, we do have new business. Why don't we start with Chief Koroski? Couple-minute overview of your budget.
I'm a visual learner, so. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Chief. You got one for yourself?
I do. Roseanne, I leave in the dark for a second. It's gonna take me 2 minutes. Can I use you as my AV specialist?
Sure. Oh, Chief's going high tech. I like
You
it.
want to sit on me?
No, I'm gonna stand.
This will cost you an item in the budget, you know.
I double-sided the prints, I saved one.
And no staples?
And no staples, staple is staple. See?
That's not gonna make up any difference.
No, I should use the fire up.
Gotta turn that on.
That's a good sound. Should have punted the Chief Rongo.
His is in space.
Not simple.
Does it actually pop up?
Wanna go?
I think we got it.
Well, I can.
Just worry about mine.
All good plans, you know? There we go.
Let's try this again.
There we go. For the first time.
All right.
So just hit the next one you needed.
So really what I did is just created a quick overview of the major lines that drive the police department budget. Probably the largest budget in the borough, right? So,
It is.
you could help me out there?
Yes, oh,
So I thought it would be prudent to start with a overview of where we really formulate our budget from. It started with a strategic budget plan in 2022 that the council asked us to create. So a lot of the last couple of years' budgets are really driven by my budget requests for the last couple of years that, you know, we formulated this plan and we wanted to see where we'd be 5 years out, and actually next year ends our 5-year strategic plan cycle. So it started with priority number 1, which is staffing, and we've added a class 3 police officer, and then supplemented with patrol officers. So go ahead, next. There we go, look at that animation. Priority number 2 is our headquarters municipal building construction. We're in progress with that now. There is, as you'll see, my capital budget request, the 2025 capital budget request for a more in-depth detailed feasibility study. Priority number 3 is our equipment. We have a brand new outdoor test instrument that's mandated by the state for testing of intoxicated drivers that was funded through state DDF and municipal funds. We have an ALPR project that covers 3 intersections, top secret, we can't tell you where they are, but it helps us with our criminal investigations, and there's a 2025 capital budget request to add an additional intersection where we're seeing some issues. Our body worn camera project from our strategic plan is on pace for our 2026 capital budget request. It's a 5-year project, our body worn cameras, and actually coming up expenditure end of life in 2026. We had anticipated a firearms upgrade. Our current firearms are from 2017, which are getting significantly old when you compare them to newer generation firearms. We're going to pass that off to another year in consideration of the training that would be required to get that accomplished. And then the upgrade of our headquarters cameras that are nearing end of life, and we'd be prudent to pass that on to additional future time when we maybe have some renovation headquarters and there's some new corners and what have you that we have to cover. Okay, next please. So what I thought it would be good and beneficial for you all to see is a 2025 to 2024 comparison of our operational budget. So salaries and wages, obviously one of the biggest drivers for our budget, but we were invested in adding a police officer. Council saw the need for that, and we did that. So that's the increase that's requested in that line. Office machines and technology is really one of our largest lines. In the previous 3 years, we had seen some cost savings because I bought multi-year plans on some of the contracts, our data plans, our radar signs, our social media archival, which is now a recommended best practice since we have Facebook and Instagram. We have to archive those for open requests, so that's in that budget as well. Below that is the equipment. Again, a slight increase there. Last year it was funded at around $32,000. And this is where our MDTs for the mobile data terminals and the police cars, the data to translate data back and forth from the communications center to the state NCIC computers. It's a vehicle GPS that helps with fleet maintenance and officer safety, knowing where our vehicles are at all times. And then our department cell phones and the ALPR cameras that we have at intersections, a lot of modems. Obviously, no internet connections aren't free, so we have to pay for all of that stuff. Next, sir. Crime prevention, not again one of our largest lines. It's only funded at $8,000, but it's one of our nicest lines that I like to spend the operational money on. Our things like Coffee with the Cop, our LEAD program, our annual National Night Out. That I referenced Kona with a Cop, or Lieutenant McKay would not let me leave this room. That's one of his favorite events. Jumping down to uniforms, again, a fairly large expenditure to outfit all of our officers with the emergency equipment, the uniforms that they wear on a daily basis, and that covers our civilian staff and our crossing guards and our matrons as well. And that is really covered contractually with the PBA agreement. I believe their annual allowance is up to $950 for wear and tear on uniforms. And then in addition to that, with our centennial coming up, as the mayor mentioned earlier this evening, we're looking to do an anniversary, 100th anniversary badge for the borough that the officers will wear in recognition of the borough's 100th anniversary. They'll wear that all year long. Body armor, obviously a very critical piece to our law enforcement officers. They don't leave the building without it. That piece of equipment expires every 5 years. So each cycle, I look at how many vests are expiring, and we fund it that amount. Thankfully, we get state and federal funding that helps us recoup some of the items, the funding for that. Next. New cars, we're on a rotational program with all our patrol vehicles. We generally replace one vehicle a year. The wear and tear on brakes and mileage, and really we're looking at engine hours on these cars because some of them run 24/7. So we do a lot of maintenance on those, as you'll see in the next couple of lines. But last year we replaced 2 vehicles actually. This year we're looking to replace one of the vehicles that's well over 100,000 miles on it. And that budget item is there at about $58,000 with lights, sirens, soup to nuts in the patrol vehicle. Dispatch services, obviously everybody likes to pick up the phone and when they need it, call for emergency services. It covers dispatch for our fire department, our EMS partners, the PD, as well as 911. So that annual fee actually decreased this year. I'm not going to ask why. I like a decrease where we can save it. We'll save it.
We're just waiting for the county to take that over across the whole county, so we don't have to budget for that. So
That would be
we'll
lovely,
throw
wouldn't
that
it?
in, so we'll talk to the county a little bit further about that.
Absolutely. But it does cover our portable radios, the in-car radios, and we share some of the radio responsibility with Morris Township for the Morris Minutemen. Vehicle maintenance, we're seeing year-over-year constant increases in this line, something our borough mechanic has requested. is to purchase extended vehicle warranties on our 3 newest vehicles, which hopefully you can do to start cutting down on some of these costs. I'm a good steward of taxpayer dollars, so I like to try and get us as close as possible. You can see in 2024, we requested $25,000, and we're just shy of that total amount. So we're starting to see some increased time out of service for vehicles that have to go back to Ford, right? There's not a lot of maintenance that you can do on your own personal car now. They all go back to the shop. There's a lot of nooks and crannies and hidden compartments that they gotta get into, which extends the delays for them to be returned to us. But like I said, those maintenance and labor costs are going up as well. Sir? One of the other lines that I control is the Office of Emergency Management. It's generally a relatively flat line since I became the Chief of Police. We did a small increase last year to try and look at some civilian emergency response team membership. We're still working on that program. But one of the concepts that was brought to me, one of our Sergeant Hockman, actually, who's now leading our traffic unit, said, what happens when power goes out in the borough? We have 3 municipal-owned traffic lights. Coles Drive is Stop and Shop, which meets Littleton Road, Malapardis along Littleton Road, and then America Road off East Hanover Avenue. When the power goes out to those traffic signals, it causes disruptions to our staff because we have to man those intersections with people directing traffic. What will happen is Gen Electric, who controls those lights for us, will install a generator switch, $2,300 for each generator switch, and then approximately $1,100 for a generator. We can plug and play, get the intersection up and running, and detail our staff to other needs. And finally, the 2025 capital budget request that's coming. We've been working on our renovation construction project for the last couple of years and trying to get us to some needed refurbishments at our headquarters. The next, working with Dave Schultz and the Musel Group, is a detailed feasibility study, getting down into really the nitty-gritty of this building renovation of where outlets will go, how many phone jacks we need, the furniture needs, the whole nine. So that's a $200,000 investment, which would really come off the top cost of that overall building refurbishment. We're looking at, as I said earlier, to add a automated external defibrillator replacement. Our current AEDs are 22 years old. The new technology is great, where you don't have to switch pads and help us save lives in critical moments. That's a $13,000 investment in really the safety and our emergency medical response to our residents. We're the first ones there on scene when CPR is in progress. We have a variable message board and speed trailer. It's gonna help us with our traffic enforcement, just a $17,000 investment. And then additional ALPR camera at an intersection in town. We're having some continued issues. Looking to actually do cost sharing with some local property owners down at that intersection. That might help us defray some of that cost. If you have any questions or concerns, like I said, that's the major driving lines in our budget. If you want to get into the minutia, we can certainly do that. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, we'll take it from you.
Chief, each vehicle, just for the public, each vehicle has an AED defibrillator, right?
Yes, each vehicle has an AED in it, so.
For the public, ALPR.
ALPR, automatic license plate reader technology. Monitors with video, reads license plates, we can find missing persons, stolen vehicles, put out wanted alerts on these vehicles and their license plates for registered owners of the vehicle themselves.
And literally within an hour, I think, we put the one up and we got something, like minutes, right?
We get hits, you know, a dozen times a day on stolen license plates, missing persons, wanted individuals, so really great technology. And really after the fact, when a crime happens in Morris Plains, there's enough gateways for us to cover a lot of the intersections and, you know, it's done wonders for our solving of case ratio.
Roughly how many defibrillators did that 13 grand cover?
That's 6.
I may want to put one in for the request from the public at Simon's Park.
Yeah, that's the idea, is to
We
get
have
those refurbished and then have them housed elsewhere in the borough. I know the one in the community center is a little aging,
Oh,
so
wonderful. So
it's
they
not,
can be refurbished.
we can
I love it.
refurbish them, get them
I love
out, and then, you know, get them to, the community center inside the gym for basketball and, you know.
You got 40 and 50-year-olds that play basketball now. The other ones I'm afraid of at Simon's.
Could be.
So,
You see, with
you
baseball.
save
you
one
know,
life, amen.
Yeah, sudden strikes with the baseball to the chest. We've seen kids go down, thankfully not in Morris Plains, but we're actually, you know, training now a lot of our coaches. We actually have a request coming in from baseball to retrain some of our coaches in CPR, so we're invested in that as
They
well.
said they make it a little bit more simple too right now, or more, okay, good.
Yeah, real simple.
Love it.
Okay, thank you, chief.
Can you share with me later the archiving for social media that you're, because that's come up with a couple of things. I'm just curious about how that process is working and all that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
Will do.
Bonus points for multimedia use, chief.
Pretty good. Not bad for a day's work.
Thank you, chief. Very good.
Okay, chief.
You don't have to.
Roseanne doesn't like the lights. Go ahead. Chief.
That's why it's short and simple.
Just take my nap over
I
there.
don't have any visual aids, so.
Just gotta keep up with
You
the
gotta follow
councilman.
that, you know?
Councilman
You
Verga
never
buses
made Mike
are
go
coming.
first, chief.
No, he doesn't.
I couldn't remember mine. You forgot his already, right? That's right.
Yours is fresh in my mind.
Not a competition here.
No.
Good with me.
I just got two copies of this.
Oh, perfect, I had.
You can share.
I have one, so if you guys want to see this.
Oh, let's have it. We'll go over that first. So we had a big capital request for the fire department this year. Be a purchase of a new, 2025 Pierce pumper. It's gonna replace our 27-year-old engine right now. This will be, if ordered this year, it's a 36-month wait period. So 3 years, we're looking at almost 3 years before receiving this. The price is gonna, the price is what it is, and,
Wow.
and it's gonna go up. So last year it was just under that price, and then.
When we first talked about it, it was like 600,000-700,000 or?
Wait, is this the mini pumper?
No, no.
Oh, okay.
No, that's
That's
already.
ordered already.
That's already
That's
ordered.
done. You already paid for that one.
Don't worry, that's.
You already paid for that.
I thought it jumped up.
We have that.
By the end of the.
We should be getting, yeah, hopefully by the end of the year. Should be, but this will be replacing one of our full-size engines. It's gonna increase our pump size, because we're getting a larger pump, and we're getting more water, so we're getting, see, it's 1,000 gallons, right?
Yeah. How many gallons?
It's gonna have 1,000 gallons of water on it,
You have what, 500 now?
500 on all water, except for the ladders.
Right.
So we're increasing our water supply off the bat from 500 to 1,000. And that's a big concern of the fire department right now is our water supply in this municipality because of the building going on. And I know the mayor's concerned about it too. Where are we gonna get the water? I mean, if we can get water stored on an apparatus, it at least gets us a little more advanced.
And Harding took a little bit of our water too, by the way.
Every town is.
Yeah.
Parsippany, Harding.
So that, what I handed out was the letter from the dealer, from the salesman, and the drawing of the engine itself. It's gonna be a little
Public
bit
see
smaller.
that, I mean, if you wanna pass it around.
Yeah.
No?
Why does it keep saying the price is gonna keep going up?
Oh, yeah,
Why does
because
it-
everything's going.
Nothing goes down.
Nothing's gonna go down.
2% a quarter,
2% a quarter.
it's 8% a year.
So that's,
On 1.1 million.
That's better than my money.
that's,
We're in the business.
Sell fire trucks instead of houses.
yeah. That's, so, that's gonna be the big thing for capital. Like I said, the engine's 27 years old now. By the time, if we act on this year, by the time it comes in, it's gonna be another 30 years old. Hopefully it'll last that long, hopefully nothing major will happen to it, and we're gonna take a little hit on our ISO, our insurance rating, but, the main pumper helped out a little bit.
So chief, what happens
Can't do everything at once.
with, whether it replaces, was it engine 2 or 3? 4? Okay, what happens with those? Do we,
Engine 4 will be, auctioned off, or we can trade it in.
Okay.
Trade it in, we can still probably we'll get more for that than, the ladder we just got rid of, because it's a more wanted piece of equipment, not for frontline service. So that, like a city will take that in no time,
Mhm.
put it in a reserve, as a reserve apparatus,
Mhm.
and they'll run it for another 5 years or whatever until they destroy it.
Okay. But we get something for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely get something,
We auction it or
yeah, we'll definitely get
whatever's
something.
the most we can do.
Right.
Yeah, because, I don't wanna, keep my hopes up, but the service manager down at the dealership is like, I already got that sold, so.
Wow.
Yeah, there's big cities out looking for trucks like that.
Good.
They're still, they have
They have
maintenance,
useful life left.
they have maintenance that they can, whatever they can do to
Right.
it, but like once the main computer goes on,
That's it.
it's 30 years old.
Gotcha.
Good luck. It's gonna be dead here.
Can't get parts.
Yeah.
We're not gonna be able to,
At all.
So, the budget's pretty simple, I went over it with Tyler today. I do have to increase my maintenance budget, just because the apparatus is getting older. We took on another, vehicle for our chiefs, next to the police department, giving us one of their old vehicles. It's running good. Everything. Testing, I had to increase because of the, our ladder this year, 2025, since it's 5 years old, it has to go through a non-destructive test, which they actually hook electricity up to it and check it for cracks. That's a little more cost, so that's why. And in that testing, we do everything from our gas meters that we use, our hose, our ladders, our pumps on the apparatus. So, cost of everything's going up, so we're trying to do our best, so. And, training, we increased that a little bit, just because we're trying to do a little more outreach stuff. I don't know if anybody has any questions. I could just go over my capital really quick.
This was enough, chief.
That's operating budget. You don't have salary, it's free. Look at it.
You had some decreases in there, chief. So.
Yeah, a couple.
I think the
I kept
all
it-
the budgets, the fire department is always probably pretty close.
I kept it under last year, so.
You do a great job.
But here's where it comes. So,
I'm trying to be nice, chief.
Well, no, it's all necessity stuff. Our air bottles that we wear in our scout packs, I need to purchase 15, and that's a big cost, it's a $20,400 cost. The reasoning we do an air pack takes 2 cylinders. One is on it all times, and then you need a spare. So we have 30-minute bottles, so what happens, you go through 30 minutes, which is really 20 minutes of operation, then you come out, you switch that, you go back in for another 20 minutes. That's how we operate. And then that person sits out for rehab for a little bit. And then, so by having the cylinders available, we can rotate members in and out. So we need, with the mini pumper, we'll have 4 new additional seats for air packs. So that's 8 bottles right there, 8 cylinders. So that's 8 that we don't have, that we will need. We have 7 that went kaput on us. So we're replacing 7 that we don't have right now. So there is a need. We did upgrades to our portable radios years ago, and we talked about doing 10 a year, because originally it was 40, and then we cut it down to 10 a year. So that last 10 will be up for this year. That's gonna be $32,158 for 10 new radios. So that'll give us that'll end at 40. That's connected into our radio system in the town, those radios. So that's gonna give 40 active members the communication that they need at all of our calls. And they can be used on mutual aid, because we do have county channels in there that'll work on the fireground channels. So
Yeah, Chief, when I was in public safety and you told me about the radios and educated me, and we had the older ones, and I never forgot what you told me. I'm not gonna send my man in that fire without a good radio. And you sold me. And now you're
I mean, look at
gonna
it.
be 100%,
Do
right?
you wanna send your 18-year-old son?
Absolutely not,
I don't.
and you know, until I heard that, you just don't understand the importance of it. You think a radio's a radio, a little walkie-talkie, but not of that caliber. But I'm so happy to hear that our department, which is the best east of Mississippi, as I say, has
We're trying-
has
we're
top
trying-
technology and another $1.1 million truck.
I like it.
And we got the pumper too, 600,000, right? So we're safe. 400,000?
460.
464.
Thank God.
465, yeah, so.
You told me it was gonna go up though, so it didn't. Thank
Well,
God.
that one did.
Okay, thank God.
This one did. So, trying to get the best deal on the radios that we can, and that, they seem to be working great for us, so keep them all the same, that's why we're going with those.
Can we get credit for any of the old ones, or do we donate them, what do we do? Junk? Or give them to the new, the kids to try them out, or
We can,
juniors?
to talk to Chris about that, cause he's up on the radio stuff, so.
We're still making payments now.
We may have to-
Good with them.
No, the
No,
old
it's
ones,
just-
the old ones, 20, 30 years old, so.
I'm just
okay,
kidding.
okay.
Thank you.
Next item, we would need some hose. Mini pumper coming in, I need hose for that, so it's 15,000. That truck's also gonna need radio equipment. That may go down, that line. I have to check with the county and see if they have another county radio that we can, that they can install in that. I know the last time I asked for a radio, they said that they have one left. I don't know, so we'll have to find out about that, but that price can go down. And looking at 2 fully electric fans, battery operated, no cables, no cords. They're smaller, you can put them anywhere in the apparatus. It costs $12,000 for that, for 2 of those. 5 sets of turnout gear for the newer guys that have come on. A full set of turnout gear now is $3,700, and that really only includes jacket, pants, and boots, and rescue harness. The helmets, the gloves, the hoods, that all stuff. That comes out of the working budget, so. That'll be $18,500 for that. What we have is, we have these monitors, they're basically nozzles that you can put on the ground, hook a hose to, turn it on, and walk away, and they'll operate on their own. And, what we use them for is, if we go to a defensive attack, we have to come out and the house, structures are unsafe to go in, we can set these up and set them up. We can also protect another building, an adjacent building. If the fire's approaching it, we can set one there and turn it on and let it go. We have one currently, we're just looking to get 2 more, one for the mini pumper and one for the other engine. Two more thermal imaging cameras that we use. The cost of those is $10,000, like $5,000 apiece. And the big cost.
Chief, you're killing us. We need it.
Mike, no sense you even talking.
I try not to, we'll try not to.
You get nothing.
Money, but,
I'm glad your report is over.
Is there any questions?
Great job.
Thank you, Chief. Can I make it?
Yes.
It's 750 gallons, our new,
Oh, 750.
750.
Thank you. And Steve DeLovio was the chairman of that committee, so he made the cost.
Good job.
He's passing the buck, Steve.
So.
What color, Steve? What color? What color's gonna be?
We know what
He'll
color,
never
We
tell
know,
us.
we know what color it's gonna
we
be.
know what color it's gonna be.
Chief, real quick.
Boot and cream.
What's the total number of volunteers that are on the fire department right now?
Total number of volunteers.
Yeah,
Can I give you a rough number?
yeah, of course.
We're at about, probably between 75, 80.
And they're all volunteer all the time. It's amazing.
They're not all
Active.
No, I
here.
understand
They're not all
that.
here. They may
Right.
be, they're on the rolls, that's on the
Right.
rolls.
No, No, you get it.
active, we're looking at over 40
Yeah.
active. So,
All volunteer.
all volunteer,
Impressive.
all volunteer.
100% volunteer, 100% of the time.
That's great.
Thank you, chief,
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
so much.
Any other questions?
Good job.
Everybody's a sticker shock right
Yeah.
there.
I'm glad you
The only
reported.
question is, how do you lower that, so that's the question, but, we
I
have,
think it goes up 8% a year.
we have Mike Lombardi, chairman from the Shade Tree. Thank you, sir.
Oh, thank you.
I knew this wasn't a good idea.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
If you want to get this,
Yeah, yes, absolutely, sure.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, thank you, Mike, for that report, I appreciate that.
Okay.
It's the best one I've had.
No, I appreciate the time this evening. So what I shared with you all up here are a overview of what Shade Tree does and kind of how our budget's aligned. And this is something, the other document that I know there's been questions about. This is the contract that we currently have with our current forester. And this is a process that goes out to bid. And the forester that we have is currently the lowest bidder. This contract goes through 2026, and you can see the cost increase per year on all the different line items of services that we have. So I just want to start, for those that don't really know, the Shade Tree, we consist of 5 members, a recording secretary, and our forester. We work together with our forester to address any issues with town trees as far as removal, stump grinding, and pruning. Fertilization and deep water rooting are something we're going to have to increase on more in 2025. Our 2025 focus is going to be doubling and tripling the amount of trees that we've planted to compensate for the tree loss that Councilman Cortese had stated. And lastly, we run a Arbor Day program at Mountain School that provides tree saplings to the current students. So to save time, I'll just kind of run through some things. We have a new business review each meeting where we review memos that come in on level of importance. Anything that is submitted by a town resident is an automatic priority level, so that we could address any issues from the residents. Then memos from the Shade Tree Commissioners. Each Shade Tree Commission member is responsible for a zone in the town. We take the 6 zones in town and split it between the 5 of us. And it is up to us to bring to our meetings any issues that we see with any of the town trees. And then there's a section for the memos that the forester brings to our attention while he's working in town. He will observe any problematic trees. Our old business review takes place on a review of a worksheet that we have, a kind of a rolling list of trees. These are lower priority items that will be completed throughout the year as funding allows. Just to highlight some of the costs and items that we did in 2024, our biggest cost is tree pruning. We pruned 72 trees in 2024 for almost $49,000. 30 trees were removed, close to $30,000. 22 trees were fertilized for $3,000. 17 stump removals for $7,000. 11 trees were planted for $6,400. And we have our Arbor Day program that provided 216 tree saplings to students. Our total spend for 24 was $96,479. I just allocated the top 5 areas that kind of cost us the most, which is the pruning, tree removal, storm damage, which includes park maintenance, new planting, and stump removals. So for 2025, our budget request is as you see here, 123,875. Below here, just some of the things that we're working through as what kind of goals that we want to have for 25 and our justification for our budget request increase. Currently in the town, we have a very aging tree population. A majority of our trees are oaks and maples, which were planted during the major development of the town between the 50s and 70s, and these trees typically have a 60 to 90 year lifespan. So we're really getting to that end time period. In addition to that, we have a couple tree diseases in town, the ash borer tree disease. There is a needle blight disease that impacts evergreens, and we're expecting tough conditions to come for our trees coming out of the extreme drought that we had this past summer. Moving forward, one of the focuses for this year will be the planting of new trees, and I know in 24 we only planted 11 trees. A lot of this is going back to, we reach out to homeowners that have had trees removed to have a tree replaced for them. We get a very low turnout of responses for yes. We have a 30% fill rate back on that from residents. So 70% don't want a new tree back. So our plan this year is to plant in areas where we don't really need a homeowner to say yes or no. My goal this year is to plant 40 to 50 new trees to offset the tree loss that we've had and be proactive in an area which hasn't been addressed enough. As you can see, each new tree costs $395 from our nursery. This includes the planting of the tree and a 2-year tree guarantee, so if anything happens to the tree within the first 2 years of being planted, they replace the tree for us for free. As you can see, the cost, what the cost would be to plant 40 and 50 trees. One of the things that I'm proud to taking forward is an increase in our town parks. And Sally, you mentioned kind of some of the areas that you see. The community park is a big one. There are 8 dead ash trees near the batting cage. One actually already fell on the very close to the batting cage, so this is a safety concern. So our ask would be to remove all 8 trees and replant 8 trees back in their places to do a net zero impact. You see that cost would be $91.80. Wanton Park is another area of concern. There's a pine tree along the row right by the playground that needs to be replaced, and we'll have that tree currently removed and replaced with a new one. There was a tree right along the pond that fell in one of the storms earlier in the winter month. That'll be removed, the stump will be removed, and a new tree will be planted there. There are 6 other pine trees in that row along the playground that are struggling, so our recommendation will be fertilization, and something that we really haven't used much in the borough at least was deep root watering, excuse me. So they will come out multiple times and shoot water deeper into the ground to really saturate into the roots. And in addition to this, we'd like to add 3 new trees along the playground to increase shade. This is something that some general public members have brought to our attention, that they feel that there's not an adequate amount of shade while their children are playing at the playground. You see that cost of $61.67. Same thing, kind of want to take that same approach at Simon's Park and add a few more trees there to increase some shade. One of the things I'm really proud about wanting to do in 2025 is expand the Arbor Day program and include both of our schools in town and ensure that every student is able to receive a tree sapling on Arbor Day and be part of their Arbor Day program.
I think that number is in the 800s, not 700s for each student.
I had it wrong.
So I think you may have to up that if that's the can say is, you know, I'm a little disappointed that some of this money wasn't allocated at the end of last year, Mike, by the council. Just because, you know, some of that, we can transfer some funds out of some of these other, budget lines that, may have had some surplus, we'll say, and could have done some of this work, last year prior to an increase of, $28,000 or $29,000 for this increase. You know, we could have taken a big chunk out of it. Now you're starting behind the eight ball and now have to budget for $29,000 more of work possibly, right? If the council does that, right? We had some of those funds last year, so that's my comment. Just it was available last year. We could have done some of this work last year.
And I know there's just some concern, just like how funding is allocated by Shade Tree and how we're spending. We've really ramped up our process to really scrutinize line by line on requests. So far this year, we've spent a little bit shy of $9,600. January was a larger month at $8,600. That was to kind of recuperate some of the things we couldn't do November and December. To your point, Mayor Carr, because we didn't get the additional funding that we had requested, February was managed very tightly with just a few small projects that were done.
So, anybody other
Yes.
questions?
Just a comment.
I've been on the council 5 years. I've never seen a report at the end of the year showing what Shade Tree has done before. This is the first time.
Okay.
So, one of the issues I've had with Shade Tree has been sort of a lack of accountability for this money that they've been spending in increasing amounts. I think that the budget, compared to other municipalities in Morris County, is extremely high. I did an analysis of Shade Tree budgets and towns who don't have Shade Tree committees at all. And, I mean, we're looking at Chatham Borough with the similar square miles to Morris Plains, spent $29,000 in 2024, or allocated $29,000 for their budget for Shade Tree. Chester Borough, $18,000, they're about 2 square miles. So let's see, Long Hill Township, 12 square miles, $16,000. The ash trees are everywhere. So the fact that we have ash trees that are dying, I know other towns also have that situation. So we were 96,000. Let's see, Riverdale, 2 square miles, $2,500 from their Shade Tree budget. Now, perhaps they take money from their parks budget for some of this as well. And that, we don't know, because you can't tell by looking at their public budget what's happening with the money. But, you know, the budget seems extremely high, and I question the assessment of the risk. So the Shade Tree Board consists of 5 members, and you're saying including a recording secretary and a forester. But I think that's a misnomer, because the forester is actually our contractor who we pay to take our trees down. So that person should not be on the dais as a board member making decisions about trees for which they'll be paid. That's a conflict of interest.
Sure.
So the reason we did not approve any additional budget last year was because of this conflict of interest that we became aware of when the meetings started to be
And I think
recorded.
we're getting off the topic now a little bit, but that's a public bid that they go out to with a line item price on stuff. So, you know, it's a bid process that this contractor goes through.
I agree
as
with
well.
the contract. I have no problem with the contractor. I have a problem with the contractor making decisions or recommendations about trees. There should be a separate person making a recommendation and approving with the committee. That could be part of the committee that's paid but does not make any money from the decisions that are being made.
But the board makes the decisions, right?
Correct.
the board
And I will
makes the
address
decisions.
one of the concerns that you had. The forester no longer sits on the dais, he sits here. And we are no longer fielding recommendations from him, because I know there was the concern from him driving around the town making recommendations for things to do. So our focus is really on what the residents themselves call in, or what us as the Shade Tree brings forward for recommendation. And I will say we've done a lot of research into other towns that don't have Shade Tree. I completely agree. I've seen the same figures that you have from those other towns. From my understanding, and speaking with a couple of the other towns, everything kind of is blended into a couple of other budgets where a lot of them fall under kind of parks. So I understand your concern for the dollar figure.
So it sounds like you're saying that the Shade Tree Commission approves all the requests, but who on the Shade Tree Commission has the expertise to determine whether a tree needs to be pruned or taken down? I mean, there's accreditation that's required for that.
So that's something for 2025 that we're looking into, which with at least 2 of us taking certification classes.
So I know in other towns, they hire a separate arborist who is paid an hourly rate to evaluate whether a tree needs to be taken down. Because I think what we've done here is we've prioritized the risk over the benefit of trees in Morris Plains. Over the past 8 years since this study was done in 2013, where their recommendation was that we need to come up with a no net loss planting project and maintain an inventory of the 400 trees that they received a grant for. And then the interim, they were to maintain a database of any newly planted trees in the borough. Their priority there was in increasing the canopy of the borough, making sure we're protecting it. But it seems that it's been prioritizing the risk that a tree might fall on somebody when that risk is below 1/100%.
I think, yeah, but again, we're getting off topic here really, but I think that's just policy really, but rather than talking about the budget.
Well, we make
I think that, yeah, right, so it should be talked about in the committee, but the spike in the need for trees was driven by the ash board, and all the time and energy and money went to that for 4 or 5 years,
Yes.
right? We're at the end of that now, so, but again, this is policy, really not budget, so.
We're at the end of it, but our budget keeps increasing anyway.
No, you decreased the first, what do you have for the first quarter compared to last year?
No,
It's 123,000.
No, the first quarter, so 2025. You spent 9,000, you said, or?
Correct.
Whereas
Versus
last
the-
year you spent about 25,000.
Correct, we've been really
So it's
stringent
about a third.
on budget management. I know that was a larger concern for budget management, and that's, my goal is to get a budget in line. Look, if we can't have the budget requests that, that I'm asking for, if we could stay at the 24 budget, if that's what it takes for this governing body for us to show you that we can be accountable within a budget. 2 months into my role here, but I'm really trying to ensure that we're not spending frivolously.
I see a lot of improvement, a lot of more accountability here than what we've seen in the last 5 years. But I personally, and I'm not speaking for anyone else, I would like to see budget money allocated for a separate person to evaluate the requests until such time as there's somebody on the commission who has the proper credentials to evaluate these requests, to have that money allocated that way, and then I will gladly sign any voucher for any trees that need to be taken down. But my problem is the lack of oversight of the process and the decision making.
I agree with Nancy. I was on that for 2 years, and I disagree with Mayor's statement. Towards the end of the year, the committee would be asking for pruning, and I would ask, is it a safety issue? Why do we have to do it? And it would be the same cockamamie answer of, oh, we'll be behind budget in the following year. So you don't know what you're up against the following year, so I don't know how we're going to be behind that. But yeah, I like the idea, but because no disrespect to anyone on the committee, we appreciate everybody being on it and volunteering, but there was no one on there that had any, including myself, what a tree looked like that was going to die, was infected with carpenter ants, whatever, except for our arborist, Dave Duty. So, and like I say, does a great job, but it just seemed like he did drive the budget. And I was there with the 2 years of ash tree, but they were dead and possibly safety issues. So I think, like you said, we're kind of at the end of the cycle there. The 50, 60, 70 trees, I mean, how old do you think Pearl Law's tree is? 150, 200 years old. I don't think all these trees are going to be coming down just because they're 50 or 60 years old.
No, and I'm not saying that they're gonna be coming down, this is just a concern that we have moving forward. And Pearl sycamore tree is one that we do actively take care of more than some of the other ones. I know in '24, we pruned it and fertilized it
Right,
as well.
It looks beautiful. But I'm just saying, I don't know that a tree, just because it reaches a certain, age, that's gonna have to come down.
So the plan that we had, received a grant to write in 13 or 14, it did say that, we should develop a plan based on the priority categories and reinstate a pruning circuit on a rotational basis, so that a certain area of the town, they're pruning the trees, each quarter or each year, so that, they're not just driving around looking at tree limbs, but it's kind of like a systematic approach to doing pruning. And that also, they recommended that a separate risk assessment and forest management planning be conducted each year, so that we have a plan at the beginning of the year for what we can expect, so that when we're approving a budget, we're not just basing it on what was spent last year, but on actually what the current needs are. And I see you're doing that more now than what we've seen in the past, so that is appreciated.
You see, a lot of those trees get pruned by JCP&L, we tear them up by the power lines, but
Well, that's just around the power line.
we take a lot of times the 10-foot easement. I do appreciate the decision being made on the type of trees to be planted under power lines, so they don't get butchered, whether it's a cherry tree that grows 12 feet, or an oak tree that's not under power line.
Correct, and that's one of the things that we're focusing on as well. If we do have to plant under a power line, it will be one of the smaller tree species, but in other locations, our focus is to also go back and plant native trees to this area, which is something we've kind of moved away from. Because it is a common request from residents that they don't want this massive tree that they've already had replaced. They want the smaller little flowering tree that's pretty in front of their house.
Just another thing, I was just thinking of recommendations, just don't plant between the street and the sidewalk.
That's, we're not doing that
Put that
anymore.
on the, okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Because then we have to worry about the sidewalk coming up from the roots and other concerns for the residents.
Good, thank you.
Mike, I appreciate we're hitting you pretty hard here 2 months in, so.
No,
As
go
a-
ahead.
As a new councilman, I can relate, right, so I get it. Just a quick question, this is, hopefully it's an easy one. Just the math for me, I'm just not I'm not quite getting it, maybe I'm not reading it right. But you said for 30 trees removed in 2024, it was $29,715. According to the schedule here, even the most expensive tree removal, 36 inches, is $475 per tree. So if my math is right, that's only $14,150. So I don't understand how 30 trees equal almost $30,000 at close to $1,000 per tree when the quote is only half that. So again, I appreciate hitting you hard, you're 2 months in, so maybe you don't have all the answers.
No, so I believe you're looking at section 2
Correct.
of the contract then.
Correct.
So that, to my understanding and conversation, that would be if they literally just they cut and just leave the tree. We base everything on section 1, which is the full takedown of the tree and removal.
Okay.
That's where the cost,
That-
the larger cost comes in from.
Understood, so that's, it's almost.
Yeah,
$1,000
for the most part, we really can't, remove a tree and leave it there. There are situations where, depending on the location, we could leave the stump and we don't have to incur the stump removal cost.
What percentage of the trees are taken down by the DPW?
It's a very small percent, and this is something that I brought up in one of my first meetings, tried to understand what we could do a little bit different to maximize spending. So DPW isn't properly trained, as is our forester and his staff, to remove the trees. I believe it's depending on the location of the tree and the size of the tree is really what DPW can take care of for us. This is something that I've really pushed to understand more. It's pretty much like the kind of 12 and under, so like that foot and a half and under, they can take down. Smaller, a little bit easier for them, as they're just not properly trained.
Mike, I have to be honest, when I saw your budget, it was like $800-900 a month. And I felt like you spend $800-900 a month, then you stop. It's like you have to spend it. And it just felt like I wasn't digesting it well, I put it that way. What you did tonight, like I already saw the first quarter, you're nowhere near the 26,000 that you were last year. And if you continue like that, you're gonna be well under budget. At the same time, I see that there were 2 trees that came down day before yesterday, one in Johnson Road and one at the batting cages. Thank the Lord it wasn't baseball season. That would have crushed a kid.
Exactly, which is why I wanna get that specific area addressed.
And that's what you wanted to clean up last year, and understand that I didn't have, I don't think, like I said before, we didn't have those information. And it looked a little, I don't wanna use the word suspicious, how do I say it? Just 8,000-9,000 you stop, it just, whereas now you're telling me 900 in January, this, and 8,000 in February, it already sounds a little bit more believable, and I'll use the word digestible, I can accept it.
Which is why I wanted to come in front of you all this evening as well, because I know there was the concerns and there wasn't kind of, this level of detail in the past is, anytime that any of you would like to come to a meeting or want an updated request of this type, more than happy to give you reports.
Both those trees, I think they were 12 and under, I stopped. DPW took care of them, and also there were some more dead trees nearby, they took them down.
Okay.
So,
I know that there is communication between
on
the
Johnson
farms.
Road.
Okay,
The ones on the barricade, they haven't gotten to it. We're gonna go tomorrow morning and
Correct.
check those out. I don't see, our kids walk the sidewalks. We're responsible for the first 10 feet roughly of the right of way. Those trees are there, our kids are underneath it. At least I'm gonna fight tooth and nail that everything is done, with the maximum safety for our kids.
absolutely,
Because
which,
Once you go to 10 feet, we're not responsible anymore. But God, that's right where our kids walk.
exactly, which is why we're also prioritizing the parks in town more than we ever have. One of the things that we did, at the tail end of last year, in Community Park, we trimmed and pruned all of the oak trees, that go from the pavilion all the way over to the sandbox and to the, slide area. There's a lot of dead wood in those trees. That was done as a safety concern. So we're gonna continue those types of safety concerns as a top priority.
And compared to the years past, in these 2 months, let's say, you spent around 9,000, whereas the last 2 months, you're budgeting 10,000, I say, roughly 10,000 a year. So you're already under that, because there's no, thank God, we've been lucky, but you never know.
Yes, we've gotten pretty lucky so far. I mean, with the winter weather we've had, we haven't really had the tree loss, so that's
I have to apologize to you, and I really thought that, when I saw that budget last year, I just looked suspicious. I had a hard time with it. The way you came today, this, and this, you clarified a lot in my mind, and I see the importance. I've only been on the board with you guys for a couple of months, and I want to learn more. But I'm very happy with what you did tonight as far as educating on this, and the way you're going, where you're hands-on and worrying about our kids.
absolutely.
Well, that was a quick 10 minutes, Mike, that's good. Thank you very much for coming out.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you,
All small preview, thank you for coming out. Shed some light on some things, so that's very good. Vouchers, Ms. Verga.
Does anybody want to see the memos that you generated, pass them around from Forrester, or?
Not really.
Okay.
I move that the checklist of February 20th in the amount of $2,558,254.70 be approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Tyler, roll call please.
Mr. Cortese,
Yes.
Mr. Bruhn,
Yes.
Mr. Houston,
Yes.
Mr. Pontier,
Yes.
Ms. Verga.
Yes.
Thank you.
We have no need for an executive session, we do have a need for an adjournment.
Mayor,
Yes.
Yes, I would.
no, I had a conflict with that, but
Oh, okay, we do need. I don't know. What?
the
Oh,
position for, clerk, or,
Salary discussion.
I raised a question, are we allowed to, well, let's figure it out. You saw my response to that, no? Roseanne, you got my response on that one?
And I answered it.
Oh, Okay, I didn't see that, I'm so sorry. We don't have to raise?
I don't know, you asked if
I
it's
asked
the
that question.
position, and I said it's the position.
If it's the position,
That
let
you're
lawyer,
discussing.
let the lawyer do that. I just don't wanna make sure that we don't
You
do
guys
anything
are
wrong, that's all.
discussing the position?
I don't know anything.
I don't know either,
I
Art.
think we're setting salary. We're not talking about it first.
What?
We're setting a
Person is
salary.
mentioned on that
We're
email,
setting a
right?
salary for.
We got a lawyer, right?
I haven't seen any of it.
But you were copied in.
I was, and I answered.
Jeez.
Oh, yeah, I didn't see this.
If we can talk about it, it's great, I just don't wanna do anything wrong. I'm for talking about it. I just thought that,
We erased your last one.
No, it's, you can talk about it, because I can't envision a situation in which that's gonna negatively impact her employment, so. Personnel within the parameter.
I got it ready right here. Thank you, John. Executive session. Be it resolved by the Borough Council of the Borough of Morris Plains on the 20th day of February 2025 that prior to the conclusion of this regular special meeting in the Borough Council of the Borough of Morris Plains, the meeting has been open to the public. The mayor and the Borough Council shall meet in executive session from which the public shall be excluded to discuss matters as permitted pursuant to NJSA 10-4-12 subsections B8. The time the matter to be discussed pursuant to paragraph 1 here can be disclosed to the public is as soon as practicable after the final resolution of the aforesaid matter.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Nancy, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, the ayes have it. We will be coming back in, I can't tell you exactly when, if you wanna wait, but if not, we'll see you later. Thank you for coming out tonight, thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for coming.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Great meeting. Appreciate it.
Appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you.
We have to go to executive session, but Paul, you have my information.
Yeah.
You're happy to call me